Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're going to unravel a truly shocking incident that quite literally shook the globe. We're looking at the tragic assassination of Sidhu Moose Wala, a global Punjabi music icon. And look, we aren't just going to skim the headlines today. We're going to really piece together the exact timeline, dig into the intricate gang motives, and then zoom out to examine the broader systemic issues of gun culture and politics in Punjab. There is a whole lot to unpack here, so let's jump right into the facts.
So, the big question. A question that left millions of fans completely stunned. Why was a celebrated artist ambushed in broad daylight? To really understand this, we need to go back to the exact events of May 29, 2022. It's a day that forever changed the landscape of the Punjabi music industry. Let's trace his steps on that fateful afternoon and see exactly how this tragedy unfolded.
Alright, so at 4:30 p.m., Moosewala left his home in Musa village in a four-seater Mahindra Thar. He was intending to make a 61-kilometer drive to Barnala to visit his sick aunt. But just 10 kilometers into that drive, at about 5:20 p.m., he reached a turn in Jawaharke village. And it was right there that a Corolla Altis blocked his path from the front, while a Bolero closed in from behind. What happened next was a highly coordinated, deadly blockade.
30. Yeah, 30. That is the total number of bullets fired in those terrifying moments. 3 armed men stepped out of the Corolla, and another 3 stepped out of the Bolero. 6 shooters in total, unleashing an absolute, undeniable showcase of brutality right there on the village road.
So how did it actually go down? Well, the shooters first targeted the Thar's tires so he couldn't ram his way out. And despite this overwhelming firepower, Moosewala actually fought back. He fired from his own pistol, but he only had 2 bullets. Out of the 30 rounds fired by the attackers, 19 struck him. His cousin and a neighbor who were in the car with him also took gunshot wounds. Now, a really brave local named Masi rushed over, smashed the glass, and managed to pull Moosewala out. He was actually still breathing at that moment, but tragically, within just 15 minutes, he was pronounced dead upon reaching the hospital.
Moving into Section 1, the gang rivalry motive, and a deadly cycle of revenge.
To figure out the why behind this attack, we actually have to rewind to a previous, super high-profile murder. On August 7, 2021, a 33-year-old Akali Dal youth leader named Vicky Middlekara was brutally murdered. He was shot 20 times. Middlekara was known to be extremely close, honestly like a brother, to the notorious gangster Lawrence Bishnoi. So, the Bishnoi gang wanted revenge, and their crosshairs eventually landed squarely on Moosewala.
But you're probably wondering, how does a gang connect a global music star to a political murder? It all boils down to the Shagun-Preet connection. When police arrested the shooters who killed Madukara, those shooters named a man named Shagun-Preet as an accomplice. Now, Shagun-Preet was a manager who had arranged a few shows for Moosewala, and before the police could catch him, Shagun-Preet fled to Australia. The Bishnoi gang firmly believed that Moosewala used his own resources to help Shagun-Preet escape, and that belief, that placed a deadly target directly on the singer's back.
And the crazy part here is that there was zero attempt to hide the motive. Immediately after the assassination, Lawrence Bishnoi's right-hand man, Goldie Brar, posted online claiming responsibility. Even more brazen, Bishnoi's nephew, Sachin Bishnoi, called news channels directly. He proudly stated, on record, that he killed him with his own hands as revenge for their brother Vicky. He made it clear it wasn't for extortion or publicity. It was pure, unadulterated retaliation.
All right, let's go to Section 2, tracking down the shooters and piecing together the clues.
So, with the motive completely out in the open and the perpetrators publicly boasting, law enforcement had a massive national manhunt on their hands. Get this, the shooters actually filmed a boastful video of themselves waving their guns around inside their getaway Bolero. They then abandoned that vehicle 13 kilometers away from Mansa. When police searched that Bolero, they found a simple, totally overlooked piece of paper, a receipt from a petrol pump in Fatehabad. By checking the CCTV footage at that specific petrol pump, police were able to positively identify one of the shooters, Priyavrat Faji. One tiny mistake literally unraveled their entire operation.
So what was the ultimate fate of these guys? Well, the Delhi Police Special Cell successfully arrested 3 of the shooters. The Punjab police managed to track down 2 others, which resulted in a really fierce 4-hour encounter. That shootout left 3 policemen injured, an AK-47 recovered, and both of those shooters dead. Finally, the last shooter, Deepak Mundi, was arrested at the Nepal border months later in September. So all 6 were ultimately accounted for.
Which brings us to Section 3, the security downgrade controversy, and the ensuing political firestorm.
Now, beyond the actual gang warfare and the police action, we really need to talk about the highly debated political decisions surrounding the singer's security detail. Moosewala, who you know had joined the Congress Party in contested elections, previously had a heavy security detail of 8 guards. However, the newly elected Aam Aadmi Party government drastically reduced his security down to just 2 guards. This wasn't totally isolated. They reduced security for 424 VIPs all at once, but the timing was heavily criticized by fans and political critics alike because this downgrade happened literally just days before the fatal attack.
But to make matters even worse, there was a tragic logistical choice made on the very day of the attack. Moosewala chose to take his personal 4-seater Thar instead of his official bulletproof Fortuner. Because the Thar only had 4 seats, and he was already traveling with his cousin and neighbor, there was simply no physical space for his 2 remaining security guards to go with him, which meant he was completely without official protection when the ambush occurred.
And having official protection was absolutely crucial when you look at the sheer firepower the attackers brought to the scene. The weapons present reveal a deeply organized, military-level attack. Police discovered the shooters actually had grenades and launchers on standby just in case their primary weapons jammed. There are even unconfirmed reports that they possessed a highly rare Russian AN-94 assault rifle. The presence of such advanced, specialized weaponry strongly indicates severe and extremely dangerous cross-border weapon smuggling routes from Pakistan.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, Punjab's gun culture problem from a macro perspective.
When you step back from this single tragedy, you start to see some severe systemic issues haunting the region way beyond just the music industry. Think about this. Punjab accounts for only about 2.3% of India's total population. Yet, the state holds an alarming 10% of India's total licensed weapons. That's roughly 4 lakh out of the 40 lakh in the entire country. And remember, we're talking just the legal licensed firearms here. The countless unlicensed weapons used in organized crime aren't even factored into that number.
And you know, this massive saturation of weapons feeds straight into a really fierce cultural debate in Punjab, leaving Moosewala with a deeply polarized legacy. Neutrally speaking, his supporters argue he was a visionary artist who proudly connected people to their rural cultural roots, but on the flip side, his critics argue that his music and imagery actively glorified and promoted the exact same destructive gun culture that ultimately claimed his life.
As fans try to process his complex legacy, a lot of them point to this truly haunting coincidence. It actually mirrors the tragic death of his own idol, American rapper Tupac Shakur. Moosewala's most popular, arguably his most iconic song, is titled 295. Tragically, the date of his assassination was the 29th of May, or 29/5. It is a detail that has pretty much cemented his almost mythic status among his followers.
The loss of such a massive talent and prominent songwriter has obviously left a profound void for his parents, his fiancée, and millions of fans around the world. But it also leaves the state grappling with a huge, undeniable issue. As gun violence silences one of music's biggest voices, we really have to ask, how will Punjab break this deadly cycle of gang warfare and weapon smuggling? It's absolutely a critical question for the future of the entire region. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep seeking the facts, and we'll see you next time.